Is your faith more about hype than it is about hope? That sounds like a weird question, but it's an important one. You see, a lot of people, and myself included, have experienced our journeys of faith in different seasons like this, where there's a spiritual high, and then we go to the next one, and the next one, and the next experience is kind of what gets us through the present moment. Now, that doesn't mean that camps and worship services and sudden movements by God are bad or incorrect. What it does mean, though, is that sometimes we can end up not being able to sustain our journey and our faith through the really hard times because we're more about hype than about hope. Now, what's the difference? If you ever have a shot of adrenaline before, and that's what hype does for people, is let's get them all hyped up and ready to go, like at a football game, when your favorite TV show has the final episode, that's when adrenaline enters your body. Adrenaline is designed to help our bodies operate at max level. More blood to your body, more oxygen to your brain. And what this means is that people can make decisions quicker, or that we can do superhuman things like lift cars and things like that because adrenaline is kicking. However, the problem is that none of us can stay that way for very long. When our brain is hooked up on adrenaline, the thing that once helped us begins to destroy our brain. The thing that was good in the short term begins to degrade the long term. And this is where chronic stress and headaches and things like that come from. It's just adrenaline constantly. And that's a big cause of stress, is having so much adrenaline in your brain constantly, to the point where you're not supposed to be operating at this level of oxygen and blood in your body for very long. To regulate our bodies and our brains and our systems, we need discipline. A big part of discipline is being able to see the long term in the short term. And another word for it would be hope. You see, hope is hoping for something that's not yet seen, something that has not come to pass, but you have a glimpse of it. Hype is not. Hype is all about what's right in front of you. Hope is sustainable, and hype is not. Hope sees reality for what it is, but also believes in a better future. God gives us more than hype. He gives us hope. The Apostle Paul writes this: "We also celebrate in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance, proven character, and proven character, hope. And hope does not disappoint, because the love of God has been poured out within our hearts through the Holy Spirit who was given to us." Hope surrenders the trials and the pain that we're going through to God and lets those things be God's tools to shape our souls. Hype disappoints. You can only go out so far with it, but hope doesn't disappoint. I love this quote by Henry Nouwen talking about the discipline of the heart to hope instead of just hype. The discipline of the heart helps us to let God into our hearts so that God can become known to us there in the deepest recesses of our own being. Hype goes from event to event, but hope sustains in the tough stuff, in the pain, in the grief, in the loss, in the confusion. Hope can help discipline our hearts to see what was really valuable instead of hype that just sees what's right in front of us. So how do we do this? How do we create a heart and a life that's disciplined by hope instead of hype? Well, you see, there's an active way and there's a passive way. The passive way to begin to be disciplined by hope is through suffering. We find that hype about God isn't enough to carry us through this gritty life, through the pain, and it slowly comes to fall apart. Some people never recover, but others find a vibrant faith underneath it all. However, that's just the passive way. The active way is to actively surrender to God before the trials happen. A way to surrender to God instead of giving to hype is to be honest in prayer. When you're honest in prayer, God is concerned about the little things. Your problems are important to God. God is renewing the world through your life, making all things new. He is also concerned about you. Be yourself to God. That intimacy is what generates hope in our lives, where we understand that's the God I follow and not necessarily just the hype things. Although those things can be good, I have a hope, not just a hype. Paul Miller, in his great book, talks about this. When we stop being ourselves with God, we are no longer in real conversation with God. The active way to discipline your heart with hope is just to talk with God. God cares about the little things. He cares about the grief and the loss you're experiencing through the last couple of years, all the way to finding a good parking space. So I'd encourage you, be honest with God today. Narrate your life to God, and you'll be surprised how your heart begins to be shaped by the hope of Jesus. See you soon.